to another episode of And I've Always Said That. I don't know why I'm like blinking on
And I've always said that.
Always said that.
Question mark.
In case you couldn't tell from the title of the episode and just the visuals on this episode, this will be the ACOTAR episode.
Part one.
Part one. Probably part 1 of 8, but some quick housekeeping disclaimers before we get started. These are all our opinions. If you don't share the same opinions, that's fine. I mean, you can comment yours down below, but don't be mean about it.
Yeah.
Number 1. Number 2, we're aware we're pronouncing everyone's name wrong. That's how we read it in our heads, unfortunately, before we figured out how to pronounce it correctly. So don't comment, that's not how you say I don't give a shit.
We don't care.
Guess what?
We don't give a fuck.
Guess what? I'm winnowing out.
Winnowing.
Number 3, if you have not read any of the ACOTAR books, pause this. Bookmark it, save it for later.
Because you're gonna want to read it.
You're gonna want to read it, A, and B, there will be spoilers.
Goes without saying, many spoilers.
If you're interested in reading it eventually, but you just haven't gotten around to it, we'll wait for you.
Yes, because I would also say...
We'll be here when you're ready.
I'm someone who always ruins the endings to things for myself.
Literally us talking before talking about that book.
Yes. But I'll go... like online and I'll look up the ending. My anxiety like used to be that bad. I have to know. I can't stand not knowing things. This is the one of the first book series that I've read. It's the first one as an adult where I haven't looked up spoilers. Like I haven't sought out spoilers.
Whoa.
The story's that good.
I accidentally got spoilers and then kept getting pissed because my TikTok was feeding me spoilers.
It's different. I would go on Wikipedia, go on SparkNotes, and just read the book. Why would I do that to myself?
Trying to figure out what happened in Silver Flames?
Yeah. But that's also, it's just how well written it is, in my opinion. So yeah, if you do eventually want to read it, don't watch now. If you aren't going to get around to it, but you're interested... maybe this can be your SparkNotes.
Maybe, but I would recommend going in blind. But
definitely.
That's just me.
Don't listen to Joe. Definitely go in blind. You want it because that's the whole point. Is you want the like.
I was saying if you know you're not gonna read it,
okay,
then let me be your SparkNotes. If you're like,
then let us like spark your interest a little bit.
Yes.
Once you see how passionate because you know how when someone's passionate about something, you're like, even though I know what happens, I'm still interested. Yeah. It's like that.
No, like, these books are so good.
They're life-changing.
Also, Nikki is not here.
She is...
in spirit.
She's here.
I don't think she'd want to be here in spirit right now.
She did not read. She does not have interest yet.
Yes, this is
Nikki, don't listen to this episode. If you're still, for some reason, listening, get off. I need you to go in blind.
She's conveniently away, so we decided this would be perfect because she hasn't read the series. I don't think she's shown much interest up until now, until reading.
She's in a reading drought, so she's
in a reading drought.
Probably not reading it anytime soon either.
I'm out of my reading drought, so I thought it was the perfect time. And let's get into it. I was putting off reading these books for a while, and I would just like to issue a formal apology to Taylor Citarella.
I think we all owe Taylor an apology.
But I really do, because Taylor gave me...
It was our Labor Day episode in September where you talked about the ending of Silver Flames. So and you were like begging all us to read it, and we were like,
Taylor gave me the first book sometime in the summer. I don't remember when in the summer. I was gonna read it. I went through some things, and then I kept hearing you talk about it, and I was like, oh, but like if I read it, I know I'm just gonna like burn through it, and then I have all the other books to read, and I just like I need to be in the right mental headspace. I knew I had to, and lately I have been. So I decided to read it because Meghan started reading it, and she said, "Okay, I cannot be the only one going in blind here. Now is the time for you to start."
Yeah, my journey kind of started because one of my favorite podcasts is Brooke and Connor Make a Podcast, and Brooke was reading it, and she was talking about how she didn't love this first book, but then like burned through the rest of them, and I was like, you know, Brooke is my spirit animal. Like whatever she says, jump, I say how high. So once I heard that she was interested and liked them, I was like, okay, because sometimes me and you don't always agree on things. Like, we're best friends, obviously, but me and Taylor are two completely different people. So when Taylor was obsessed with the books, I was like, I think I'll like them, but I don't know if I'll like them to the extent that you liked them.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for that, because arguably I might be even a little bit more obsessed than you were.
I always say this, when it comes to books, you listen to me.
Yeah, no, because
I have never steered. Joe has read so many books that I've told her to read.
I've read so many books because of you. I read a whole other series because of you. I read every summer after. I've burned through. I'm in the double digits now because of you.
Well, we did the math. I read like almost 50 books last year.
You're a little secret bookworm.
I've read 6 books in 2024.
Wow.
And it's February 1st.
I've read And Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Oh, you read
I've
that?
also read 6 books so far.
That was the audiobook I was telling you about last week. I audiobooked
You
it.
listened.
I listened to the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
But also Brittany Broski has she's known for loving the ACOTAR series. So I recently was catching up on all of her Broski Report episodes, and she started talking about the entirety of the series.
Silver Flames like 2 weeks
Yeah,
ago.
she just finished it. And I thought, you know what? It seems that all of these puzzle pieces are coming together at this point in my life. Why don't I do it? I read 1,040 pages within 24 hours.
Oh, and you
You
your
read
eye
it
ring
in
today.
3 hours.
I didn't read 1,000 pages in 3 hours.
It's like basically.
So I sat.
Well, you read the first book.
I read the first book in
one sitting.
Yeah, I read the first book in 3 hours in one sitting. The second book I had to chop up because I had a friend come over that night. So I think I took like 2 hours, and then I had to stop, and then I resumed, and it took me another 2 hours.
Yeah, like insane. Like the first book took me the longest to get through, and it took me like a week to get through because
You want to savor it, yeah.
No.
Oh.
Because
I didn't like it.
I did not like it.
Oh, yes.
So let me go through my whole journey. So Meghan actually bought me the books for my birthday. She bought me the first 2.
I forgot that.
And she
Because I heard they were smutty, and I was like, Taylor loves a good smutty book. I was like, these are all over my TikTok For You page.
She went in, Taylor, I've heard that these are porn on paper. You're going to love them. And I went in being like, okay.
I don't know why I didn't get you the whole series, but I guess it's because I figured you'd see about the first 2 books, or maybe if you didn't even like the first book kind of thing.
Well, you would have wasted like $100.
Yeah, well, because I was like, okay, the first book, I read the back, and I was like, I'm not really into fantasy. Like, usually with books, I kind of picture myself going as the main character, like me in the situation.
Your YN.
Yeah, exactly. And I just could not picture myself in a fantasy land with these like half
fairies.
Yeah, with these fairies who like transform into beasts, and I just could not picture myself as that. And then it didn't really pick up until, chapter 54. And I literally remember I texted everyone and I was like, this book sucks. It is the spice of a bell pepper. Like,
yes.
It is not porn on paper. And I think that's where I was mistaken, because I went in with being like, oh, it's porn on paper, it's so good, blah, blah, blah. Whereas you both went into it being like, this book sucks. It has the spice level of bell pepper.
Yeah, you didn't hype it up. You said it gets better as the series goes on, but I was prepared for the first book to not be that good. But also, it was marketed to you as a smutty book. So you're obviously reading and you keep thinking like, where's the romance scenes? But when you read the first book, more like when you read the rest of the books, you realize it's laying down the foundation, and the foundation for all of the characters and their like cross-functional relationships.
It's the price you have to pay to get into the series.
It is, and the first book is good. It is good, and I do want to reread it knowing all that I know now.
Oh yeah,
because I want to pick up on the Easter eggs. But when you first are reading through it, it's a very slow burn.
Yes,
it's
so slow.
It's a very slow burn, and like you think, the main character is going to end up with someone, and they kind of drag it out in the first book, and then you have these little seeds of doubt that you don't really understand until you get to the second book.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So, I mean, we can spoil it. Let's get into it.
Because I also went into the first book with you just saying, it sucks, it sucks, it sucks.
Yes.
So I went into it thinking this was going to be the worst book I ever read in my life, and then as I'm reading it, I was like, wait, I kind of am
this
kind of
good
book. I was like, wait, this Tamlin guy, I love him.
Okay, No. I want to get into like from
the loving tamlin of it all.
No, I want to get into that because the main character, Feyre, I think that's how you say her name.
Feyre.
It begins and she's a human and she has this kind of terrible life.
Yeah, her sisters hate her. Her dad's a deadbeat.
Yeah, her mom's dead. She's the youngest of her family, but she's the provider. She goes out and hunts, and they're like
can't read.
On the brink of starvation.
You don't know that yet.
You do know that yet.
Oh, you do.
Yeah. She's on the brink of starvation. She's never really experienced love before. There's like one guy in her village that she has sex with sometimes to
in a barn.
To distract
for,
the fact that she
funsies.
like really hates her life. She doesn't really have fun with him. She just says like one. It's
She's
the only.
just like, I literally just need to have sex.
So bored.
She said like it's the only moment where she doesn't have to think about someone else, which is really sad when you think about it.
But even then, she was like, he literally like I would never finish. Like he didn't like.
Yeah, she wasn't fulfilled in any way. So she thinks she's hunting a wolf for her family. She kills the wolf, who we now know as Lucian shows up and says this was actually a feyre.
No, Tamlin shows up.
Oh, I thought Lucian showed up.
No, Tamlin stole her.
He comes in.
He literally like bursts the door down.
And he's
you're right.
Very weird at this part because I don't think he was like a guy.
No,
like
he was
a beast. No, he went beast mode.
Yeah,
he was full out
beast mode. And he
He
was
went
just
beast
like
mode.
screaming like murderer.
Oh
you
yes,
murdered.
yes. He's screaming at her. He's terrorizing her family.
Yeah.
He's like, and this is so fun. Oh, you're right. This was Tamlin. This is so funny because he goes, "I'll give you two choices. One,
I'm gonna murder you right now."
He said, "I'm going to literally murder the fuck out of you right now in front of your family." Or two, you come live with me.
And the crazy thing is, now knowing what you know in the book, he was never gonna kill her.
He was literally never gonna kill her.
He literally needed her.
He needed her. And like, okay, we'll get into this part, but the first...
He probably just would have glamored all their minds if she was like, I'm literally not coming.
Yeah,
he probably
he
would have
would've
like, fuck
tricked
you.
But like that first book was so Beauty and the Beast coded to me.
So
because
Beauty and the
she
Beast.
obviously... there wouldn't be a book if she chose
There was
first.
literally a rose with petals falling off of it.
She chooses to go with him. And the whole book
and they
is
were
like...
all like basically like bitch bye. Like they could have kicked her out.
Yes, and
couldn't have gotten her out of there fast enough.
The whole book is her basically falling in love with her captor.
Yeah, but they were so annoying. Like Lucian, who you find out is his best friend, who's from a different court, who lives in the spring court with him because his family's awful. And he hates her.
He hates her. He said he would murder her if given the chance.
Wait, no, but one of the funniest parts is how he was so angry and he's like, I'm gonna kill you or you can come live with me. And she goes, fine, I'll fucking come live with you, whatever. She gets there. She doesn't see him for like a week. And she's like, he's like, why are you so angry? Like, what do you want? She's like, I want to go home. And he's like, no.
Yeah.
You
No,
have to stay
wait.
here. Like, you did a complete 180 from
You're
like
too
that
sexy to go home.
monster.
Yeah.
Where he's like, murder. And
So-
then he's like, no, well, you want to paint?
Baby girl.
Baby
Yes.
girl, do you want to paint?
So he literally, he's like trying to get to know her. You can tell that he is very bored with his life.
Yeah.
His life hasn't really turned out the way.
They have masks stuck on them, which you learn
It's part of a curse.
it's a curse.
Yeah.
But you can tell that he is dissatisfied with his life. He's bored. Things aren't really going his way. There's this like woman who's basically put a curse over all of
Amarantha.
his realm. So he has a mask.
The
stuck
entire
on his
land.
face.
Every court has.
It's just generally not a
has
good.
been touched essentially by
it's
her
generally
power.
not a pleasant time for the people living in like the Fae realm.
whatever time period.
So it's her.
We're not there yet.
So I don't know what time period this is set in.
The time period really like breaks your neck with how much it changes is book 2. Book 1's very just Game of Thrones.
For me at least, let's go through all of our perceptions of the book. For me, it was very Beauty and the Beast coded because we have this guy who he's literally a beast, who's kind of dissatisfied with his life. He also kind of hasn't really experienced real love, I guess. And we have Feyre, who is stuck living with him, and she's like, well, I'm here for good. I might as well, like, talk to him. And throughout the book, they get closer and closer.
And you also start to fall in love
You
with
know,
him as
because
well.
She's coming from a point where she had no joy, no happiness in her life. And this guy is willing to
Could barely afford food, and now
She's living in a mansion.
There's
with
not
servants.
the worry.
this guy is willing to sit down with her and just listen to her.
And this is like the first time someone's ever done that.
Yes, no one has ever done that for her. And so she falls madly in love with him. And he falls in love with her too. I think they're both
love bombing each other.
They're love bombing each other. I think they're both essentially rescuing each other from their own lives. They're like the tickets to each other's like departure from their old selves. And it's hard because I really like Feyre. I think the first book is a really good depiction of someone who feels like they need to earn love. Because I really identify with that. You know, you see, like, her family, she's providing for them, trying to get some respect from them. And she's met with nothing. But she keeps doing it. And she's just kind of, like, hoping that one day they'll be grateful. But she does it out of the goodness of her heart. When she's with Tamlin, she is a captor. He's telling her she gets to live in a mansion for free with all these beautiful clothes and nice food. And she's like, can I work to earn my keep? She's like begging him for a job.
Also begging to leave to go back to the place where everyone hates her.
Yeah, where everyone hates her. Well, I think she doesn't have any sense of self because she's always had to live for other people.
Yeah.
Well, that's what pissed me off was whatever. She got kidnapped. You're not going back.
Cry me a river.
Like, just get the stockies. Like, and then they were so mad. Like, what are you saying? Moron, you just kidnapped her from the only family that she has.
I think they found it hard to, like, empathize with her because they were like, everyone in your old life treated you like shit. Why are you not so willing to let that go? And I think it's because it was like what she couldn't have, right? Like the only thing you want from your family is to have them appreciate you
and love you, and she was getting nothing.
And when you get none of that, like, so her two sisters, she has
Nesta and Elaine.
She's the youngest of three girls. Her oldest sister is described as just like very doe-eyed, very pretty, beautiful, but kind of like not a ditz, but she's just very like light and airy. Nesta, she's described as like devastatingly beautiful, but like the nastiest person ever. Like I think she's just always kind of arguing with Feyre, or she's saying something very nasty. She also really hates their deadbeat father.
Well, Nesta was very protective of Elaine.
Very, very protective, yes.
Because I think where like...
But you don't know that yet at this point in the book.
No, yes you do, because she like went in front of Elaine when Tamlin like...
She also kind of like, she allows... Someone like Nesta doesn't have very much patience, but you see that she kind of allows Elaine to be in her own world a little bit, but she doesn't do the same thing for Feyre.
Well, I think from what I gathered from Nesta, she knows that Feyre would be fine on her own. She doesn't think
Feyre's
that
independent.
Elaine would be fine on her own. Like, while I was reading, like, I always pictured Elaine's inner monologue was like la 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 la.
Oh, for sure, la 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 la.
And then
that becomes like very apparent when Feyre gets sent back. And Elaine's like, oh my god, you've been with our aunt.
Our rich aunt.
How amazing. Like, I love our aunt. That's so awesome. And Nesta's like, it literally didn't work on me. That's how, like, stone cold bitch I am. But the glamour didn't
Nesta,
work.
I pictured, like, hard rock metal, like, like, screamo music in her
She's
inner
just
monologue.
filled with so much rage. And you can, so a lot of people... in podcasts and media and stuff will say like Nesta's the worst character. The last book is written from her POV. Everyone's just like, I hate her. She's my least favorite character. When I read the book, all I could, and I'm also, maybe this is why like I'm one of three girls, so I think I kind of understand the dynamic a little better.
Elaine and
I'm
in the middle. You're Elaine.
I am the middle, but I would not say I'm Elaine. I don't know who I am, but I read her character and I just thought there is something so heavy this character is carrying with her, because you do not develop that sort of
hatred.
Not even just hatred, but it's a defense mechanism. Like pretending like nothing phases you, needing to be stone cold. Anytime someone shows you emotion or tries to confront you, you are just incredibly nasty or defensive. Like that's a defense mechanism, usually from trauma.
Yeah. I've read the whole series, so let me start with that. I've read the entire series.
I have not yet finished.
And Nesta is one of those characters where everyone in the Court of Dreamers, I am obsessed with. Like, they all hold a special place in my heart. And Nesta did not become that. Not that I didn't like, I just didn't, I was like, oh, you're like,
she's also not really a main character.
Yeah, like, I was like, oh, you're fine. Like, you're the sister. Like, you do some things. But she was never, like, a ride or die. Like I would ride or die for Riz, for Feyre, Cassian, Azriel, Mor, Amryn. Like I was like obsessed with these characters. I didn't become obsessed with Nesta until the last book.
She's written to be unlikable.
And now, like, I literally
I can't picture a world without her.
Exactly.
That's my girl.
And like Elaine, like which I'm hoping that the next book will be from Elaine's POV, and I get that same appreciation for Elaine, because right now Elaine, I'm just like, you're just kind of there.
She's written to kind of like float around a little bit.
Yeah. So,
okay,
moving back to the first book.
So
literally, we haven't even gotten to like the meat and cheese of the first book.
I just want to say, so you see Tamlin kind of rescue her in a sense. There's one scene where he says, "I love you, thorns and all," and he's really saying to her, like, you're not as unlovable as you think you are. You're worth something. Yeah. I see value in you, even if no one in your life does. And so you're rooting for them so bad. The end of the book, she sacrificed. She's willing to sacrifice her life for him because Amarantha has captured him, and
she goes under the mountain.
She goes under the
mountain.
She
makes an unlikely alliance
with Riz,
who is so from at this point you meet this guy named it's pronounced Rhysand, so I'm gonna say Rhys. In my head, I read it as Rhysand.
I also read it as Rhysand.
She meets him, so she's in love with Tamlin. She meets this guy.
Before that, she met him at Kalamahari.
So that's what I'm getting into.
Oh, okay.
Kalamati.
Whatever the fuck it's called.
It's Colin Mai.
Oh.
Wrong.
The Calamari Festival.
Calamari Festival.
Where everyone's
fucking. So there's this festival where
it's like to provide magic or something.
Yeah, the king of the high court.
Read the book.
Has to go searching for a mate that night. They basically just end up like having sex with a random stranger.
In a cave.
Yes. So she bumps into this guy who's not Tamlin, the man she's in love with. And she literally thinks in her inner monologue, she bumps into him and says, this is the most beautiful man I have ever seen. So you're thinking like, oh, that's weird. There's this relationship that's been built. She's in love with this guy. She's bumping into this random guy.
And he has like the most fleeting moment. Like,
yes, everyone.
But it's so memorable.
He just
everyone
saves
around
her really quick, and then it like gets into
but everyone around him is like, oh, don't stay near that guy. He's the worst.
Yeah.
He's a whore.
Boo! I don't even think they called him a whore at that point. But everyone
Lucian said that's Amarantha's whore.
So you learn
they were all like, get a load of this guy.
You learn that he's Amarantha's basically side piece. He's her right hand man and her lover. And so everyone thinks that he's
not willing.
Yeah, he's.
But you don't know that at that point.
You don't know that yet. Everyone thinks he's a villain.
We're on book 1, Taylor.
I'll make it short.
We still love Tamlin right now.
We're 25 minutes in.
I'll make it short and sweet. When she's ready to sacrifice her life to save Tamlin and basically defeat Amarantha and release, the land from the curse.
In her, like...
She goes through so many trials and tribulations. Oh. She's dying the whole time, and she's willing to die.
And she's in the Princess Leia slave outfit.
She's locked in a dungeon, Tamlin...
Getting drunk every night.
It becomes apparent towards the end of the book that though Tamlin has love for her, he's kind of emotionless as she's going through things. You think, like, is he putting on a front? Is he under a spell?
Because at that point when you're reading the book, you're going, oh, he's doing this because he doesn't want to show his cards. He doesn't want to show that this is actually the girl that we're talking about the whole time that he has feelings for. This is the girl that could break him. So he just goes stone cold. But at that point, Feyre thinks that there's a spell on him, and Lucian's like, no. And then the way he says it in the book is a way that at that point it doesn't raise any flags. He's like, he's just doing it because he doesn't want to show that he cares for you. And you're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. He's so selfless for that.
You learn at some point in the book she's illiterate, but like in one of the tests that she has to do, Lucian, his life is online, and she has to figure out which lever is correct to pull to save him.
Me and Tamlin are 2 people, so I'm gonna pick 2.
They're labeled like 1, 2, and 3. And she can't read. She made a deal with
Rhysand.
Yes. And because when he makes deals with people, he's all tattooed. A tattoo appears on his body and their body to bind their deal. And
until your deal's up, then
I believe that was the deal where she had to
spend a week
with him
every month,
every single month
forever.
Yeah.
Or she was It was after the
She was
first
dying.
thing under the mountain where she fought the worm.
And won.
She was dying. She got an infection from being so bloody and just covered in that mud. He came in, like, he snapped his fingers, cleaned her off. He winnowed in. Snapped his fingers, cleaned her off, and was like, "You're dying." And she could like feel the fever coming on, and she was gonna try and fight it, whatever. Yeah. Like Rice was literally walking out of the cell, and she's like,
she was literally begging for. She was like, "Lucian, like, please."
And he's like, "Lucian may or may not come. Like, I might be your only shot at this right now, babe."
And
she's
he
like,
was.
"Fuck you, like, fine, like, I'll do the deal."
Yes.
I think it was originally 2 weeks every month,
and she bargained with him.
She bargained it and got it down to one.
So. She was illiterate, but
and at that point you're still like, fuck this guy.
But through her tattoo, her hand basically hurts when it goes near the wrong lever. So that's how she wins that challenge.
Because it becomes a bond between the two.
It becomes a bond. She's like, "You made me cheat," and he was like, "You would be dead without me twice." He's like, now.
"You're welcome, you fucking."
He has to like eat out Amarantha, and he comes down to the dungeon, and he's like, "You'll never believe what I just had to do."
Such a shitty
That's
day.
my favorite scene in the book when he comes down and he's just like complaining, and she's like, "Go talk to one of your friends." Like, why the fuck are you talking to me? And he's like, "I don't have any
friends."
And she's like, "You've been down here for 50 years and you have no friends."
All his friends were gone.
Wait, you don't know that we're this point.
Okay,
we're not
so
there.
let's conclude on the first book and get into the second book.
We still don't love him at this point.
So at this point, you can guess it. She ends up besting Amarantha. Oh, by the way, I was reading the book. Amarantha has this history where like she killed this one guy who deceived her, because he killed her sister, and when she killed him, she saved a part of him so his soul could live
finger
forever.
in his eye.
And she put his eye in a ring, and I was like, I stopped when I got to that point in the book, and I was like, what the fuck?
Do you think that ring was sold as ACOTAR merch and you were just unaware when you purchased it?
No, it's like a brand that does this. But like I was like, the worst character in the book? I'm Amarantha coded?
You have Warren's eye.
Jurian's
eye.
Yes. So as you can guess, she bests Amarantha. She wins.
That last test though was crazy.
Oh, that was crazy.
When she had to kill the two, I thought that they were going to be pretend people.
She had to murder in cold blood.
I thought they were pretend people the whole time. They kind of really never get brought up in the third book. Yeah. As much as they're.
She had to stab two innocent people through the heart.
She takes the hood off the third person, and the man who was shapeshifted as Tamlin that was at her side now disappears, and you see it's Tamlin. You're like, oh, holy shit, what the fuck? Like, she already killed those two people. Like, what's she gonna do? And then she's having flashbacks in the house of when Tamlin kept dropping hints that he has a stone heart for what they really don't really explain why.
Yeah, they don't, but
he apparently just kept dropping hints that he has a stone heart, whatever. So then she, like, they kind of share a look with each other. They're like, dabs him.
You hear a thud because he has a stone heart, so she bested.
So then she's like, and then Amarantha is like, actually, like, I know I said I'd let you go, but I didn't say when. So then she, like, uses magic, picks up feyre, starts, like, breaking her bones and stuff.
Yeah. Kills her.
No, but right before she kills her, feyre realizes the answer to her riddle and goes, it's love. And then she snaps her neck.
Yes.
And then as soon as she snaps her neck, like, everyone's magic comes back. Tamlin's mask falls off.
Yeah.
Because, like, that was the deal.
The curse was lifted.
Yeah, the curse got lifted.
Because she said, if you best me, you can have Tamlin back, but I'll throw in something extra and I'll lift my curse if you can solve this riddle. I'll be honest. When I read the riddle, I was like, this is her job to solve, not mine. I'm not.
I literally thought of it when she said it. I literally went, it's love, you moron.
Oh, you're better than... I guess I'm a moron.
I literally did not get it.
I knew it
I said, and that's on her. That's on her.
I said, no, this is a tough one. I wouldn't have gotten it.
But, okay, I really want to get into
books. I was reading it. I went,
I want to get into books 2 and 3.
Well, okay.
We're already 30 minutes in.
Wait, the end of book 1, we have to do her last scene with Rysand before we switch into.
And I have one last thing.
Okay, go ahead.
So, on Tamlin, and it kind of goes into book 2. I've never hated a character so much.
No, at this point, we like him. We're going in chronological order.
I know, in the beginning of the book.
But you can say that once we're on the second book. Oh, I always liked him.
I hated him in the first
I really
book.
liked him. I'm going to be honest.
In the beginning of the
book, God, I was obsessed.
He pissed me off. He bugged me. I hated him.
I loved him.
And then, once they started, like, swimming in the pond, and, like, he started taking her, I was like, okay, like, you're cool. Like, I like you. And then Under the Mountain, I was like, oh my God. Like, I think
I'm in love with him.
And then I was rooting for him so much. And then we get to book 2, and I've never hated a character even more. I never thought it was possible.
We're not.
Okay, let's end the first book and let's move into the second book. Thoughts?
So then, really quickly, the book ends. They're freed. Whatever. She hears like someone kind of rustling around outside her door. She comes outside, and it's Rice.
Yes.
And she's like, hey. And he's
Hey,
like,
guys.
hey. So then they're just kind of talking about, what a day they've had.
Yeah.
She's now high fae.
She's now
Not
high fae.
Because
She's just fae.
She's fae.
once everyone got their powers back, they used them to resurrect her. Because she did die.
Oh my God.
Her neck was broke.
Yes.
It seems
So-
like knowing what you know now.
So when she was brought back, she was brought back as one of their kind.
So they're kind of talking about that, her adjusting to the body, whatever. The conversation's kind of wrapping up. So right before he leaves, she turns to him and she goes, you could have had me down there every week of the year. Like, I would have done it to save Tamlin, and I would have done it. And he's like, I know. She's like, okay, good night. And then, like, he turns to walk away, and then he comes back to say something to her. And in the book, it reads as, like, he had, like, this distraught look on his face. Like, something happened, but she couldn't tell what. And then he just went away without a word. And she was like, okay, well, I'm going to go have sex with Tamlin now.
Yeah.
And you're like, hell yeah,
Hell
she's
yeah,
having sex with Tamlin.
But now you know what happened.
So I will say, when I was reading the first book, like, I was rooting for her and Tamlin, but I had a feeling that it wasn't going to last. And I'm going to get into, like, my thoughts on the second book because they got together at a chaotic time. They didn't really get to know much about each other. It was all physical chemistry, basically. And through physical chemistry, they developed a deep, like, care for each other.
Well, it all started with he needed her to say I love you to get the curse broken. So it was never going to work out because it was all fake.
Yes. So into the second book, it's picking up. She's back with
Why
him.
she wasn't, like, more upset about that when she found out that, like...
Well, at
that point, she was obsessed with him, so there was no helping her up.
But
She got the stockies.
You think she would have been like, was this real?
yeah.
Well, she got the stockies.
Okay.
Hey, everyone!
Seems we got ahead of ourselves.
Seems we got a little ahead of ourselves.
We got a little distracted.
So we will be having a part 2 to this episode come out next week. So I hope you guys enjoy that. But with that, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And come on, let's get in on the ACOTAR lore, ladies. Let's see.
Leave it down below.
Leave it down below.
We never talked about the quizzes.
And guess what? In part 3, we're going to be talking about quizzes. So,
Because there will be a part 3.